Konnichiwa, y'all, and welcome to the 10 at 10. Today's the 10 at 10 for September 26, 2023. Hey, happy anniversary to my wife, Amy. Love my life, mother of my 3 kids, and the original Hot Blonde. Love you, babe.
And it is also the original Mr. Maple's birthday as well.
Shout out to our dad, Norman Nichols. He started the whole nursery. The reason it's called Mr. Maple is because that's what people's nickname for our dad was.
So y'all, I'm Tim. We're going to talk about 10 of the 20 trees getting listed today on today's 10 at 10. And guys, get excited. This week is hashtag Buckholz Week.
Forget Shark Week. Buckholz Week is where it at for the gardeners. It's got everything you want. We've got tours of Talon Buckholz garden and nursery there. It has a whole arboretum around Buckholz and Buckholz. One of the best maple gardens and conifer gardens, maybe the best in the entire world. It's up there. It's an incredible garden. It's one of my personal favorites with some of the original plants of purple ghost, algaton, the largest macaw in the United States, the largest Kamagata I've ever seen ever. There's some incredible plants there. Definitely be checking out our garden highlights of the original Golden Falls, the original Yellow Cascade. Tim shows you the first ever graft of fairy hair.
Y'all get excited because Buckholz Week is here. And it's probably going to be 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of content. So get excited. Hashtag Buckholz Week. It's here.
All right, let's get into this 10 at 10. It's September 26th. We got some killer plants here on the table. I think we got some real winners, y'all. First up, in some amazing sizes, we're bringing back the Uzunishki.
Y'all, Uzunishki, it's one of our favorite Japanese maples that's variegated. I love it because it's variegated in the old growth and the new growth. When this tree leaves out in the spring, you get a purple border around the edge, some speckling white and pink variegation on the interior part of the leaf. It just shows out all throughout the season.
You've heard of Uzun. This one is Uzun the Nishki, y'all. It has Nishki coming out from all over. It exudes the Nishki. It has so much variegation. I love this one in the early spring. It kind of has a little bit of a purple border with kind of a sand dusting eye to it. This one tends to be more multi-stemmed. One of our all-time favorite variegated plants. I think it's one of the most extreme versions of that Oregano Nishki style variegation. And man, it's got it all.
Yeah, love this plant. Give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun. 6 to 8 foot in 10 years. Good red fall color as well. It's a tree that just keeps putting on tons of variegation.
Oh man, it's got it all.
One Nishki to another.
All right, we went Uzunishki. Now let's go Yamanishki. It is the Nishki mountain.
Now, Nishki is a reoccurring word in Japanese, basically a lot of plant horticulture. And it basically means brocade, which often refers to variegated. Sometimes like with Nishikigawa, it may refer to the brocaded bark, but it actually refers to the variegation that you get on these plants with Uzunishki and Yamanishki.
I've had people tell me it can also mean beautiful. So, hey, happy anniversary, babe. You're looking Nishki out there.
So this plant in the springtime really brings it. Sometimes referred to as snow peak. And that's because it has that variegated mountain. It's got that white top of the mountain. This plant has that reticulated white variegation like Higashiyama, but it's a lot more white than Higashiyama. Young plants will be a little bit greener. Once one's established out in the landscape, you really get a lot of that good white variegation.
You could say the peaks are a little bit higher. This one's crazy because when you get that white, it definitely has an all white splotching in it. Give this one a little bit more sun, surprisingly. If you put it in heavy shade, it does tend to green up a little bit. You'll get that Higashiyama style variegation, much larger overall leaf than Higashiyama. And you get some of those just like splotches where the entire branch has just, it looks like snow settling on it.
Yeah, and we did a full cultivar highlight on this plant. Go check that out on Yamanishki. This is a plant you'll definitely want to have.
Back again by popular demand, Kunara Pygmy. Now this is an amazing tree from down under you've got to bring to your garden.
This was found at Kunara Springs Restaurant in Australia by AJT's or Arnold T's. He introduced peaches and cream, fairy lights, so many amazing plants. And this was found as a witch's broom there. We've got a full podcast on witch's brooms. You should go check out and see where this one falls.
I like that one a lot because we not only break down our top 20, but we give you a lot of information throughout the podcast about witch's brooms. So I kind of like that format. We may play with that some more. You can find us on any major podcast platform, but also here on our Sunday videos on YouTube.
Now, Kunara Pygmy stays dense and compact, making more of a shrub form. And this tree gives it a nice red in the fall. I mean, this is an excellent tree to use out in the landscape.
Often brooms will look vigorous when they're young, so you get all these shoots going on. Don't trim that out. A lot of people will say, this is a dwarf. Do I need to get rid of all this? All that's going to fill in density, and it's going to slow down and get much more compact and much more globular in its shape. So this one wants to be about 4 to 5 feet tall, 4 to 5 feet wide, more of a tight ball, even in that 10-year period. and very nice compact tree. Now they can get bigger than that when they've been older. I've seen some massive specimens of this down at Stephen F. Austin and some of the places where you're getting, you know, almost 10 seasons out of the year. But it is an incredible dwarf Japanese maple. Makes a great container gardening aspect to it. And I think one of the quintessential pairings for containers is this and Shana. So the two have a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences. So you can put them in a big pot and kind of have that contrast going on.
Yeah, that's a great pairing with this. I mean, this is just such a fun plant. It's easy to use because it stays dense and compact. And like Matt said, great container plant, but it also makes a great tree for those smaller places in the garden.
Not a good compliment though. You don't want to say, honey, you're looking dense and compact. All right, what do we got next, Tim?
Next, we have Acer Shirasawanum Purple Umbrella.
Purple Umbrella is dope. This one is a new one by Crispin Silva, one of our friends who introduces a lot of great plants. Love Purple Umbrella for what it brings. You get these large, dark purple Acer Shirasawanum leaves, likely a hybrid because you get some really good reds in this as well. Now I've seen this one get exceptionally dark in a lot of sun too, where it gets almost a black red, and it just looks awesome with those big fans.
When it does that, it's one of the darkest colored Japanese maples that I've seen. I mean, the fans on this, you can see, do have a lot of width to them, so you can see some of the Shirasawanum parentage. So Purple and Umbrella, great name for this tree. I mean, this is such a fun plant. If you like those hybrid Shirasawanums, I love them. And one of the reasons I love them is because in those extremely cold Zone 5 winters, when you might get a little bit colder and you might struggle with some of your palmatums, the Shirasawanums are true winners. They survive and do fantastic for you, even those especially cold Zone 5 winters.
Yeah, this one's fun. Now, if you're giving this one some shade, you actually get a little bit of weird reticulation going on in the early spring. I had a customer send me one. He had an extreme shade, and I was like, that can't be right. And then I went and checked all my plants as they were leafing out, and I put them in some shadier spots. Yeah, it can get some weird colors in this one. So it can almost look ghost-like if you have it in more shade in the early spring, right when it's leafing. What it's popular for, though, are those large fans, big leaves, almost umbrella-like, and that great purple color. Red, red wine.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Because he was going to do it. Let's be real. He's just as cheesy as I am. We got Acer palmatum red wine.
Now, red wine, this is a tree that gives you some really nice red color in the spring, bright fire red in the spring, bright fire engine red in the fall. Right now, it's a little greener right now. It would be a very similar companion plant to something like the Sojo, but slightly different shades. And the foliage right now is more of an emerald green.
Right, this one was one that was named in Holland, and it is one of those spring bouquet plants. It definitely brings that display that reminds you a little bit of DeSojo and Sen DeSojo. And for that reason, I think it's one that should definitely get considered for bonsai. It's gonna give you some different shades. We get all the hype over Benny Shidori and DeSojo. And think about red wine as an alternative small leaf, upright bonsai plant. You're gonna get the same kind of small leaves you get on DeSojo, but a great candidate for a slightly different color.
Now the spring color on this, like I said, it's just that fire engine red, that spring bouquet of color.
Yeah.
Pair this with something that's starkly different with it, like an Osakazuki or something like a summer gold, and you're gonna have really nice contrast all throughout the season.
Awesome plant, red wine. That one won't give you a headache though the next day. It's a good plant. All right, Hubble Super Cork.
Y'all, Hubble Super Cork is a selection by our friend Scott Hubble. It's basically one of the best pine barks. I love this plant. It gets a really nice corky bark to it. It develops that fairly quickly. Great for bonsai. The reason the cork barks are so cool is because they give the appearance of a really old tree at a younger age. That means that out there in the landscape, it's going to look like an old specimen, or in a container, or as a bonsai.
You know we like to promote our own stuff. Go check out our podcast where we interview Scott Hubble. I think it's a great interview. He talks about gardening in Texas and some of his introductions. We definitely break down a little bit more about Hubble Super Cork. We talk about Uzunishki Kwazu. It's a tree we lost. I don't even miss it because this one's better and it's more durable. So Hubble Super Cork, excellent plant. Really corky, really cool, unique plant. And it's more multi-stem, definitely one for the bonsai people. So this one can look great in the landscape. I've got one in the ground. It already has a ton of bark to it. Like, it is excellent in the ground, even at a 3 to 4 foot height that still started corking up. So it'll get a lot of that early. Yeah, really great plant, but it's exceptionally popular for bonsai. You can air layer from this, you can do rooted to cuttings, and it's gonna develop that corky bark super early.
All right, next up, we got a Pepe.
All right, y'all, it's time for Pepe Multicolor.
Now, Pepe Multicolor is one of those plants we often say, can jokingly say, it could be Pepe one color or it can be Pepe multicolor.
Right now they're kind of one color.
When this tree in the springtime lights up, it's very much like an ukigumo. And I say that because it's not always as variegated as it could be, but when it is, it rocks out the garden. And it's a unique variegation where it's almost like a reticulated with lots of splashes of colors of pink and white all in there. It's pretty special.
I always tell people, for your best tips for these, leaf them out slowly. And everybody says, what does that mean? That means low nitrogen to no fertilizer in the early spring on these kind of variegated styles like this one, Ukigumo, and place them, if you can, where you have a high canopy. If you can get a high canopy on this one so the sun isn't hitting that tree, leafing it out first thing, and you can kind of leaf it out at a more slow, moderate pace. Now, certainly you can't control the weather. Some springs are just hot early and often, and there's nothing you can do about that. But if you can have a slow, consistent leaf out to this one, the best colors. I mean, it almost looks ghost-like. It's got some reticulation. It's got some sand dusting to it. It's one that really brings it, and I think it's a great one for the garden. Consider a lot of shade early in the spring on this one for its best color, though.
And like Matt said, if you do that, you can get some good color on this plant. It is outstanding. In the years that it's not, though, you still got a Japanese maple that's still going to give you amazing fall color. So something you can enjoy each and every year. And then when it does put that variegation on there, it adds that extra wow factor in the garden.
Crazy plant. I mean, you get some whites, some pink, some purple almost going on some of that branching. It really puts on a display.
So guys, next up we've got Acer palmatum Kobo Sojo. This is a rare selection of an upright. It's a mid-size. They're only getting about 5 to 6 feet in 10 years, sometimes 7 foot. And it is a slower growing red upright. It's from Japan. It's not that common in the nursery trade, but is one that we kind of wanted to get back in numbers here at Mr. Maple.
Yeah, Sojo is a reoccurring term you'll see a lot. Typically means dark, dark red. And that's definitely what you get with this mid-sized to dwarf tree. A very dark red. Nice leaves to it, too. It has a very crisp star-like leaf. Really unique. The division goes all the way back to the petioles, which I think gives it something showy to it. Almost has a lace leaf look with a big fat leaf to it, so it's kind of that in-between stage. Makes a nice mid-sized upright tree, as Tim was saying. We kind of almost throw it one toe in that dwarf category. Typically, we consider true dwarfs 6 feet or under in that 10-year frame, and this one's typically right at that.
Now, this one here will get some nice emerald greens during the summer, and then it gives you some of that really deep maroon Sojo reds. And that's what Sojo is. This is that deep maroon red, and can be even deep maroon to bright picked up red. And this one really can bring it with some good color.
Great candidate for a container garden where you want a little bit more height than something like a Kiyohime or a Hime Sojo. Kobo Sojo will give you something just a little bit taller and still those great colors. All right, we got another Peve. Here's your Peavy.
So Peve is a reoccurring term in all Piet Vergelt's introductions. Well,
Except
most of
American.
them, except for a Ginkgo biloba American. And Peve is a conglomeration of Piet and Vergelt. So Peve, that's where that comes from. But Peve Stanley, this is a very unique leaf shape on a Japanese maple. There's not much else like it.
Yeah, this one's going to be multi-stemmed, a short, dense dwarf. Very nice compact habit to it. Heavily matsamuried, so you get those divided leaves again. More elongated style, a dark, dark red in the early spring. Another excellent candidate for container gardening. Now this one's going to be shorter and denser typically over time. I first saw this one at Westernbird Arboretum, and it was in fall color. Had bold, bright red, almost red-orange color going on it. Really got my attention. I really started taking a note of this one and saying, I've got to get this into the trade more in the U.S. Acer palmatum Peve Stanley.
One of the things I like about it is the foliage has some nice twists and curves to it. So it gets a little bit of extra wavy foliage to it as well. And for a shiny, glossy tree, this tree is pretty spectacular.
Great plant. Not Pervy Stanley, Peavy Stanley. All right, what do we got last here on the table? We've got an amazing dope tree, y'all. We are bringing y'all the Ghost Dragon.
Y'all, this is a selection from the Area 51 collection, specifically our Pendulous Treasures collection. And I remember seeing this tree in our greenhouse. It was a Nakakomodo Weeping Legacy seedling. And Matt and I were looking at it and we were like, what in the world is this? Because it had almost like a Higasayama style variegation in the springtime. And it just blew my mind. And I'm like, is this going to be a reticulated type that is extremely cascading? And
don't let this one scare you. Ghost scary, dragon scary, Ghost Dragon, a beautiful addition to your garden. This one, as it slows down, will get even more of that reticulated veining in it. It's really a fun one. Now, it is something that's not always super consistent. So growing this one slowly and leafing out slowly will give you a better color. I find as this one matures, the older growth even has more of that reticulated veining in it. I've had people, I know Alan LaFoe was sending me a picture this week of one, and he was saying, man, check this thing out. New growth flushes are all just scaled reticulation. They said, man, you should have thought about calling. I had another customer say, dragon scales, because you kind of get those scale looks going on it. It is a weird tree. I mean, we threw Ghost Dragon together because why not? What a cool name for this one. And it kind of has what you like about the Ghost series as well as Ryusin.
So like Matt said, some people will get to see that ghost-like variegation at an early spring, and some years you might not. So it kind of, you know, some people say, oh, I saw a ghost. It kind of falls in line with that.
And other people say, I don't believe you. Mine didn't do that.
And the other thing that's really cool about this plant, though, is it has a really thick purple border in the spring, and the nails hang down.
Very consistent.
Very much like a sumagaki.
I've had some years in some early morning sun where you had that striping throughout the purple border too. Really interesting plant, especially as you get some of those secondary flushes. You will typically see some variegation going on in this one some seasons. I know Brian grabbed me last year. We ran and shot a video on it. So check out our video on the whole set last spring that we're just lighting up the greenhouse with reticulation. It's a unique plant. It's got that great habit. It gets about as big as you stake it. I tend to stake these to about 4 to 5 feet, let them weep down from there. These are very malleable, just like Ryusin or Ryusei. You can stake it to be about as big as you want. And I think it's one that continues to put on an amazing display and just give you something extra on top of being a Ryusin style.
That's for sure. This is a pretty cool plant. So guys, that's our 10 at 10 for today. But guys, we got Buckholz week this week. Make sure you check out really quick. Some of these trees will sell out today very quickly. And pay attention each and every video this week because there's gonna be so many cool things happening.
There's some surprises happening, guys. There's lots of fun things. We've got videos premiering with all kinds of special items in them. I don't know if it's already aired at the time we're airing this because we did shoot this slightly early. That top 5 outrageous plants at Buckholz. Man, I almost don't want to air it because everybody's going to beg me for it's going to be the new red pandas. Everybody's going to be bugging me to death for those trees. There's some incredible stuff we're going to be showing y'all for the first time here on our channel. We're excited to be bringing it to you. So hashtag Buckholz week, all week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. We'll see how long it goes on. We got a lot of videos to air. I hope you're enjoying that.
Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.